I'm live. That's what the YouTube is telling me, that I'm live. So I'm hoping this will be my first live stream without any technical glitches. I checked the mic first, and I'm thinking that works. If you could just confirm that you can hear my audio, that would be great. So, thank you. I'm so glad it works. Oh. It's only going to get better. All right, so if you're new here, I'm Kelly from KnitSwag, and as I do every Sunday, we're going to be talking about my favorite knitting book. Maybe it's your favorite knitting book too. This is Number Knitting from the genius Virginia Woods Bellamy. And I've been working on this project since 2015, so it's been 8 years now. Originally, I thought I could just republish it, redo the charts, republish it, and then a year later I would be done. And that's not the case. And as I say every week, I keep learning more and more from this book. And oh good, you can hear me. That's great. So my motivation, not my motivation, my plan may have changed. The more that I get into this book, the more I'm thinking, I don't know if I can republish it. Like the effort is so great. The knowledge contained within this book is so vast. She was amazing. And I don't know if I could ever do it justice. And so maybe it will happen someday in the future. I don't know when, but for now, all I can say is that my goal for this is to elevate this work and just to give Virginia all the credit that she has so deserved for the last 70 years, because she's a genius. And all I can do is try to figure out what her brain was doing, because apart from this, I got nothing. She was brilliant. Okay, so I have to apologize for last week. Well, I don't know if it was an apology. I was sick last week, and I don't get sick very often, but both my husband and I went to the dentist on, I think it was Tuesday, and like Tuesday night he started feeling bad, and then Wednesday I started feeling bad, and we have been sick for 2 weeks, but we're both doing better, and I'm up and I can speak. I'm not in my pajamas this Sunday night, which is good. So I'm here with you all, and I wanted so much to chat with you last week, but I just didn't have it in me. I looked like a drowned rat last week. Oh, don't quit. I appreciate that. I really do, because this book, some days, it's a butt kicker. Like and I'm going to talk more about one pattern in particular this week where I was like, what? Like, how in the world? I don't understand. But I'm getting there. I'm trying. And I think that's why it's important. It's important to knit through the patterns, because it's one thing to just like read the book, right? Just to skim the knitting book. And I think that's what most people who own Number Knitting do. They just like read through it like, oh, that's interesting. It's based on a patented method. It's got charts, and maybe they'll make like a shawl or something. But to actually like knit through all the patterns in the book, and it's only when you do that, only when you go through the experience of following the instructions and making the garment or the blanket or whatever, only then do you like really get it. And that is a ridiculous amount of work. And I think that's why no one else has ever done it. I've heard, other people like on blogs and stuff, they're like, oh, years ago, like, I'm going to knit through the book. And like, it never happens. And, I've heard, other people have wanted to republish it in the past. It never happens because it's so much work. But anyway, that's why we're here on Sunday nights, so we can do it together, and we're, thanking Virginia for her contributions to the knitting world that I think were overlooked in her lifetime. All right, we are going to talk about, and I agree, maniacal moths. Sometimes it takes a few times knitting through either a few units of knitting through the pattern or like a few times of knitting through the pattern. And I've done that before with this sweater. And I've shown you this once in another episode. This is evening blouse. And my first attempt at this was like, it didn't fit well. And you see how deep the neckline is? It'll go almost to your navel. And it's big on me. And in the book, incidentally, this was photographed flat. It wasn't photographed on a woman, I think because it would have been too scandalous. But if you put that on backwards, oh man, it looks great. So the second time I knit it, I adjusted the chart, and here it is again. And even though I've done, I don't have to hold my garments up anymore. I can show them to you because I have this fancy dancy computer setup that my husband set up for me. Yes, there we go. Okay, so I adjusted it the second time. I brought it in and I made the scoop neck not so scoop neck. But anyway, I've knit 2 of these and I still think that I need to try it again. Maybe with different yarn or something. But anyway, sometimes it takes a few tries, and I think it's going to take me a few tries with a number of these patterns. So let's talk about a fun bit of a discovery I had this week. Now, I showed you in last week, I showed you some of my newly acquired magazines. Here we go. So I've sold not a ton of these number knitting ebooks, but I've sold a few, and I'm definitely not getting rich on it. Let me tell you that way. For what it's worth, I make like $100 a year on selling these books. And that's over like the course of 8 years. So anyway, I don't really make any money on this. This is something I do for the how do I put it? The like personal gratification of it. This is not this is a money costing venture. And as Virginia said, number knitting has cost me way more than I have made from it. Like, preach, sister. I hear ya. So anyway, one of the things that I do when I get, with those who purchase either KnitSwag or, a copy of the ebook is that I do research with it. And so lately I've been buying these McCall's Needlework magazines because Virginia was mentioned in them and her patterns were mentioned in them. And I've showed you some of these before. Like this is one of the patterns from the book. And there's several little write-ups here in this book, and they're all advertising a pamphlet. Let me see if I can find another picture. Got to be careful because this thing's like 80 years old. And so it's advertising these pamphlets. And this is pamphlet number 2, and I talked about these patterns last week. Okay, that's great. I don't know if there's a copy of pamphlet number 2 in existence. I'm hoping, I'm praying somewhere we'll be able to find it. But we can recreate these patterns. That's not a big deal. But when I was doing my research, if you go into WorldCat in if you don't know what WorldCat is, it lists all the books that are published. It's like a world catalog library. And Virginia has 3 items in WorldCat. There's her number knitting book, there's her poetry book, and then there's it's called Number Knitting Pamphlet No. 1. And it was published in, I think, 1944. And there was only one copy in the whole world. And, that's digitized. And it wasn't digitized. It was only one copy, on record. And it was at the University of Chicago Library, Rare Book and Manuscripts. Well, after so many emails, I probably have an email thread going 20. I tried to check it out through WorldCat and I got denied because I have to be there in person, or they wouldn't do it through interlibrary loan. And so then I'm calling my local library, calling Chicago, and they're routing me to the Rare Book manuscripts, and it's just around and round and round. And I finally got a hold of somebody, and it said, oh yes, we have that. You need to go to this one special link, fill out the form. It's like $6 a page or whatever. We'll scan it for you. And they did. They scanned it for me. They actually have a copy of it. And apparently they said it's still under copyright protection. And I was like, no, I'm sure that it's not, but they're like, actually, you need to prove us otherwise. Like, we have to assume that it is still under copyright protection, so you can't publish it. And I was like, well, okay. And I did, years ago, I had done the copyright research on this, and I paid the Copyright Office $400 to research it, and they told me it's in public domain. And so I have the paperwork for this one, but I don't have the paperwork for pamphlet number 1. But I will show you the first page, not the whole thing, because it's, I haven't paid the $400 to release, to show the copyright protection on it. So let me show you, let me bring it up on my computer so you can see it. And it's what I think is interesting about this. 3, there we go. Okay, here's what's interesting about this. This was done, I think this was in 44, maybe 46, but this was at least a full 6 years before Number Knitting was published. And in one of my McCall's pattern, McCall's magazines, this was actually advertised in the magazine. And these pictures, they're not great, but you can see there's a mom, kind of like it's called a bed jacket, but it looks like a log cabin kind of a thing. And then what's cool is it's got a matching baby set. And so mom and baby can wear like the same, log cabin style sweater thing. And there's like this little baby hat, again, sort of a log cabin style. And then there's these funky little baby shoes that have ties on the back. And this picture is really hard. It's hard to envision, even with the chart, it's really hard to envision how is that a shoe? Maybe if you saw it on a baby foot, because, baby feet, they're like, fat. So I guess, the shape of it wouldn't really matter that much. And then there's also this log cabin style placemat. And then there's a couple of scarves. And there's this three scarf, like 3 squared scarf thing. And then there's like this, it's called two-tone scarf. You can't tell from the picture, but again, it's like an adapted unit here, and then these little opposing squares. And so those are, 1945, that's when it was. And so this is the pattern booklet, and it's 8 pages long. This is what was sold through McCall's magazine in the 40s. And what was interesting to me about that was the style of charting was so different, and the whole thing was typeset by Virginia, because it even said on there, copyright Virginia Woods Bellamy, and it was like all handwritten and hand sketched and all hand charted and everything, and it was just like, wow, it even has a picture of Virginia on there, and it's so neat to be able to see some of her earlier work, because we've seen the Puff Bunny wardrobe, which was like a lot of garter stitch and ribbing kinds of things for babies and kids, and so that was from the 30s, but this was like number knitting stuff that predates the number knitting book. And you could see some of the ideas that she presented in there they're kind of like forerunners to what actually ended up in the book. Like I can see some of the things, some of the scarves, like how they evolved over, instead of just like the three square scarf with a big square for your boobs. It sort of looked like a napkin, but her designs got more refined as she went into the 50s, and so I thought that was really neat and very, very special, and I'm so excited to finally have that. And the Copyright Office, they did tell me that they give me a link. I could either pay them another $400 to research 8 pages, because it's a 2-hour minimum, it's $200 an hour, cha-ching, but they also give me a link to do my own research, and I haven't quite gotten there yet. And I don't know if I was to do my own copyright research and it said from their website, like, we didn't find anything for copyright transfer, like, would that be good enough to prove to anybody? I don't know. I don't know how that works. So I need to do some digging on that. Incidentally, if any of you are like really into copyright or might want to learn about copyright research, and like this would be a fun thing for you, hit me up. I'll totally let you do some digging, and I'll send you the links to the, that the copyright office sent me, because I think it's not the kind of thing like if I got 20 minutes, like there's a lot of things I can do in 20 minutes, but that's the kind of thing like I don't know how long it's going to take, and like I'm a little trepidation to like jump into it, like when I don't know, like could this take 6 hours, or like I don't know. So I just haven't been quite to the point yet where I can go there. Anyway, so another thing I wanted to show you is Virginia's patent, and we have talked about this before, that it was based on a patented method, and I think that's probably one of the reasons, and I've been told this, that's one of the reasons that Virginia's, the number knitting kind of like got lost to obscurity, because there in the section of the book, and let me show you this real quick, she tells you that, here we go, the method and the products produced by the method described in this book are covered by U.S. patent. The patent has been registered with the U.S. Patent Office as available for license. The publishers will be glad to forward to the author any request for permission to teach number knitting professionally. Which is kind of wild, because nowadays, like if you have a pattern and you want yarn shops to teach your method and sell your pattern and sell the yarn, and that's a thing, but Virginia was like one of the first people the first knitters to really be publishing under her own name, and so I don't know if she was worried that like people would steal her idea or what, but after my little learning experience this week, I kind of feel like if maybe she was worried that people wouldn't understand the depth of this book, and they would just gloss it over, and they would just point people to the really basic stuff, like stoles made out of triangles. Like, I'm sure that sells a lot of yarn, even today that sells a lot of yarn, but just they wouldn't understand the full depth of it. And so maybe that's why she wanted to get people engaged in a conversation with her to really, assess where they're at and help them to understand. I don't know, but based on how I've been working on this project for so many years, and I keep finding things that are like mind-blowing, I'm thinking, well, that's like, before I just let any old person teach this new method, I might want to have a heart-to-heart with them about it too. I'm not sure, but the more I work on this, the more I'm like, wow, I really respect the effort and the expense that she put out to do that. Okay, so back where I was talking about her patent. So this is her patent on Google Patents, and I think I've showed you this before, and you can download the PDF. I link to it in every episode. But what's interesting, if you really want to go down a rabbit trail, go into Google Patents, look at any patent that you want, and then scroll down, keep going, because it types out the whole thing. So you got to kind of go to the bottom. All right, now here, let me zoom in a little bit. There's a bunch of related patterns. And so if you wanted to see other kinds of things, other kinds of knitting related things that were happening, like what can people get patents for, just go looking. There's tons of them. It's amazing. And so I was on a little hunt one day, and I found this one, L. Gilchrist Knitting Method, and I clicked on it. And this article, or this patent, is it's about herringbone stitch. Here we go. Cast on the desired number of stitches on one needle, and thereafter forming the successive rows by knitting through each stitch twice before removing it from the needle, whereby the successive stitches are drawn closely together and the loops formed by each stitch are transverse of the plane of work. a dense shape retaining knitting texture is obtained. And this was done in 1973. She was able to get this patented. And so Virginia got her patent in 1948. I think she filed in 46, got it in 48. Hey, Rose. And there has been some discussion, like, how does a person get a patent on something that they do with their hands, right? And that apparently it used to happen. I don't think it happens anymore. But so Virginia got her patent in 48. This woman, Lee Gilchrist, got hers in 73. And so let me show you this. I happen to have this. It's like an asymmetrical triangle scarf thing that I made. Of course I made it. Of course I made it. Why else would I be showing it to you? Let me get all this stuff out of the way. Okay, so if you've never done herringbone stitch, it's interesting. It makes a dense fabric, so you have to do it on a lot bigger needles than you would normally. I think this is like fingering weight yarn, and I think I probably did it on like size 10 or 11. And it's a nice fabric. I didn't know you could get a patent for it, but apparently Lee Gilchrist did. And another thing I found this week, somehow I managed to come across the fact that the woman who got this method patented, she wrote a book. And this was published in the 70s, and it's called A Revolutionary Idea in Knitting. Can't Run, Can't Unravel, Can't Snag, Twice Knitting by Lee Gilchrist. And it's got a bikini, it's got blankets, hats, scarves, it's got hot pads and all kinds of things. The whole thing is in black and white, which was a little surprising based on this cover. But it's a cute little book. I got this one from the Interlibrary Loan I think it's from Michigan. And she's got, all the instructions in here, of course, as all knitting books do, or, maybe not from the Edwardian era. But the modern knitting books, they're going to have the instructions about, casting on and how to perform the stitches. And this one's got basically the herringbone version of stockinette stitch, reverse stockinette stitch, and garter stitch. But it's got some interesting qualities to the fabric that she kind of talks about in detail. And I thought, here was another kind of a real groundbreaking, innovative individual back in the 70s. So this was published when Virginia was still alive. Virginia, I think, passed in 1979, and this was published in the mid 70s, I think. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting to see some other work of kind of like a similar-minded individual who wanted to patent their work and then publish it. Are there color pictures? There's not color pictures. But some of these are they're fun. There's some charts. Anyway, I came across that and I thought they all might be interested. I don't know that I'd ever wear a knitted bikini. I made one once. I did. Did I ever tell you this story? I'll have to find it. It's crocheted. I took an art class in college. I think it was like a 1-unit art class that I needed to finish out my upper division so I could graduate. And one of the art projects was jewelry from a hardware store. Had to make something jewelry with materials that you sourced at a hardware store. And I got some cotton twine and a bunch of, I think like stainless steel nuts from the hardware section. And I crocheted myself a bikini, a thong bikini, never wore it. But I crocheted myself a thong bikini. It didn't fit well though, because it didn't have the darts here. So it was just like a triangle. And it was very gappy. And anyway, I'll show you next week. But Lee Gilchrist, she did a much better bikini design than I did. Oh, Maniacal Ma says, I thought that D-stitch was the same as this. That's what I thought too. And D-stitch is interesting. That book came out, I don't know, about 3 years ago, in that each stitch is, I have an example of a D-stitch selvage, which I can show you. No. There we go. Okay, so D-stitch is different in that each stitch is knit twice vertically as opposed to horizontally. The twice knit method that Gilchrist came up with was each stitch is knit twice horizontally, and so the structure of the fabric is different. And I don't know if you can see this very well. It's hard to see because this is like really light fingering weight yarn. If I had it on chunky yarn, you'd be able to see it. It's a similar concept in that the stitches are knit twice, but one is knit twice vertically versus the other is knit twice horizontally. So that's why I got that. That's, I think, what got me down this rabbit trail of this twice knit knitting book, because I was like, hold on a sec. I thought this modern knitter came up with that, but they're two similar but different techniques. And I'll put, after I'm done tonight, I'll put links to those in the description in case you're interested in either one of those books. All right, so another thing, how are we doing? 6:25. I wanted to also show you this book I got from, I think my mom gave it to me for Christmas a couple years ago. Not that she picked it out, because she doesn't know anything about knitting. And so I just tell her what books I want, and she's like, seriously? That's what you want for Christmas? And I was like, yeah. So anyway, this is a fun one. And I thought this would be interesting to show you because this was from 1932. And so this is right around the time Virginia would have been a young woman, a young mom. She's got kids, is in the Depression. She's doing her earliest number knitting stuff, like in the designing phases. I think this is when she lost one of her boys, like childhood illness. She got tuberculosis, was, learning how to knit socks in the sanitarium. So that's the time in her life that this book came out. And so I thought it would be interesting to see like what kind of time period books she may have had access to. And so that's why I got this one. It is 1932 Men's and Boys Wear Manual of Knitting and Crocheting. And it's all by Columbia Yarns. And in Columbia, they have, I think this is how knitting companies or yarn companies used to do it. They describe their wool. They don't have like a weight of the wool. They just have descriptions. So if you're not familiar with these terms, it's not super helpful. It doesn't say what it's made of. It doesn't say like maybe what colors are available. So here's an example. Columbia Lady Jane is used where yarn of exceptional quality is desired. This is made of pure Australian wool. It does list of fiber content, okay. And its loftiness and softness cannot be excelled. Somewhat lighter in weight than Germantown, it is used for all manner of infants' garments. Down here they say that, some yarns are better for play outfits. This one, silky wool, makes a good sweater for a growing girl. It doesn't say like the weight or anything, so I guess you just have to go to the yarn shop and get some assistance from the people behind the counter. But what I like about this book is it's all for men and boys. I love the photography because it's very soft. I don't know what the photographic technique was, but like the complexion on every single one of these guys is like butter. I mean, maybe they did some touch-up work, but like their skin looks amazing, like better than the news anchors. It's really nice. A lot of them they have pipes, which I think is interesting. Like I wouldn't want anyone wearing my hand knits to be smoking, but I have a different take on things now than they did in the 30s. I think they thought it was healthy back then. But it's got, dog sweaters and kneecaps, covers, and blankets and things. And they talk about how you can use this for bleacher or motor use. So I guess, having a car and like driving around in the car would have been sort of a new thing back then. Yeah. So this is the kind of book I think that maybe Virginia would have had access to. I have no way of knowing if she had this one in particular, but I just thought it was a nice historical book that is a treasured part of my collection. I thought you might want to see. All right, back to number knitting. So I had been working lately on the copper cardigan, and let me bring that one up. And it's a challenging knit. There we go. Let's do that. So this is number knitting, the number knitting book. This is copper cardigan, and this is the only photo we've got right here. And it's a little hard. It's hard to see the details, but like what's new with this book? So there's the instructions. It's knit back and forth in rows. So you start here, go back and forth, and then you pick up for the back, go back and forth, back and forth. This is what stumped me here, is that apparently every other row here I was supposed to pick up from, I was supposed to pick up here, and I left the whole thing open like two separate pieces. But let me show you my progress on this. I'm onto the borders now. Originally, the pattern said it would only take 10 ounces, 9 ounces, but buy 10 for safety. There we go. Picture in picture. So, of course, I bought 10 ounces of yarn, and I ran out, and then I bought more, and then I ran out, and so now I'm on my second refill of yarn. I think I might need more. And I think one of the issues is that just like the yarn companies they weren't super descriptive in like what their fiber content was or what their reps per inch was or anything like that. So as a yarn buyer, like a knitter in the 40s, you would have been pretty much at the mercy of the shopkeeper. And so you would just have to like use their yarn and use the pattern that they specified and just rely purely upon their knowledge, because they didn't have like the really helpful information on the ball bands like we do today. And so anyway, I'm probably going to run out. I think this sweater is like, I'm already at 6 skeins right now. I might need 7. It's probably going to be at least 1.5 pounds. Anyway, so I've got, this is my sweater. I wish I could zoom my camera out, but I'm not quite that techie yet. Maybe in the future we'll be able to figure that out. The sleeves are kind of wide, wider than I thought they would be. I still need to add another cuff here and then fold that back. And I think in the picture it looks like there's a little cuff link or something there. And so this sleeve width is just, it's very big for me. But the whole sweater is knit in this brown, it's like mine is an alpaca blend. And then you follow up with borders along the front. There's going to be like a double layer border. So they're going to lap over in front according to the pattern. And then there's a collar of divided squares, smaller. These are 16 by 16. The ones around the collar are 8 by 8. And then there's also going to be smaller 8 by 8 divided squares along here. And the cuffs have another 16 by 16 set of divided squares. and it is coming along. I probably am still not going to finish it for 2 weeks, but it's fun. Whenever I'm working on this and I get so excited and I just start to giggle because I love it so much, my husband just looks over at me and laughs, because this sweater is not, this is not the kind of thing that I normally wear, and I'm fairly certain it's not the kind of thing that I'd be allowed to wear on a date. Anyway, I love it. My grandmother would have loved this. She was very glitzy. She loved sequins. So I'm excited about this sweater. So hopefully, I don't think it'll be done next weekend, but hopefully the weekend after, I'll have that done and I can model it. $6.35. All right. So some of you have already finished your tropical leaf card throw, and that's so great. I've enjoyed seeing all your projects and all the bright colors, and I finished mine, and I wanted to show you. The original pattern, it called for, I think, 8 ridges of garter stitch here at the top, and I felt it needed to be more, and so I did 15 ridges. And of course, like I always do, I ran out of yarn, because that's the way I roll. I don't plan, I make up things on the fly, and I run out of yarn. And so in these corners here, what I ended up doing was, instead of just all this pink and white here, I ended up using like every other row kind of this off-white cream color, and that seems to work well. You can't even tell it's a difference. Normally I like my white yarn to be like white, but I found this is just like a little off-white. It's like it's not been bleached. It's like the color of sheep, and I thought that was nice because it worked really well with this this kind of like homegrown wool. This was from a Canadian sheep farmer, and it's still got a little bit of barnyard debris in it that I keep finding, but I think it's charming. And I can't show it to you all the way because I can't zoom my camera out, but here we go, tropical leaf car throw. And I think this thing probably weighs about 2.5 pounds. I think so. If you haven't posted your pictures in the Ravelry group, please do so. I'd love to see your projects. And I've noticed that we've started getting a few new people in the Ravelry group, and I am very curious how they found us, how they found the group, because there's honestly not that many people that watch these lives, and there's a few more that watch them on replay, but not a ton. So if you're new here, leave a note in the comments and let me know how you found the group, because I'm very curious. I know that there's a few longtime group members and a few friends that I've like personally invited to the group, but like, if you're new, tell me how you found us. I'd love to know. All right, so the next knit along, we had a little bit of a vote, and starting in April, we decided to do 2 knit alongs, and you can do either one. You can do both if you're feeling adventuresome. And the first one is called Bodice Blouse with Cape Scarf. And I'm gonna talk about the Hampton shirt first, because the Hampton shirt is less intimidating. If you're new to number knitting, I think that would be a great sweater to start with. So this is Hampton shirt, and it's a pretty simple pattern. It's just let me see if I can make my mouse a little bit bigger. There we go. Hopefully that'll help you to see my mouse better. So it starts with, it's done in rows, and you make 4 divided squares moving to the right, and then 4 to the left, and then 4 to the right, and so on. And then you work up and over the shoulders to the back. You leave these 2 squares open, and then you work over the back and down. And then for some reason, oh, I see. I'm not exactly sure why this is. So you work rows 1 through 4, and then you come back at the end and in the front, and you do these rows, these last 4 units, and then you work the rest of the units up and over the shoulders. I know that Virginia, a lot of times she would have the bottom units in the front, she'd have you work them afterward. And so like in the rib cage area, like these ones would be worked up, and then the rest of them would be worked down. And I don't know exactly why. I suspect here's an example. I suspect it had to do with the diagonal lines and the way that she wanted them to fall. Like this section here, she has you knit these ones up and then these ones going down in order to get the lines, to make this nice X pattern. And so that was probably her reasoning in this sweater. As for why she did it why she did these ones, there it is, right here down at the bottom, worked downward, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to knit that sweater again to tell you. Maybe I'll understand it better the second time. Here is that sweater, my version of it. Mine doesn't, her ribbing seems like it tucks in more than mine does. Mine is like kind of stretched out, maybe because it was over my hips. Hers was originally modeled by a man, and the whole sweater uses the same needle size throughout, whereas all her women's sweaters, they use gauge shifting. And so the needle size varies, but in this Hampton shirt, it uses size 11 average, and it's to knit 3 stitches to an inch, and it's supposed to fit a size 42 chest. And it says you need 8 ounces, but allow 10 ounces for safety. So, I mean, really, who knows? I don't know. I should probably weigh this and see what it weighs, because the other sweater was long sleeve for a woman, and it had double cuffs and a lap over, and she said it was only 9 ounces. So I don't know. But I do want to say that for those people that are like not like, most of the women's sweaters are designed for like a 32-inch bust. That seems like the pretty standard measurement. There's some in the book that are, they say will fit a 32-inch bust, not a 30, or the smaller is a 32, but you can adjust it upward. Most of them are 36. But this man's sweater supposedly fits a chest measurement of 42 inches. Well, I'm a 36, and that sweater fits me pretty well, actually, so maybe my gauge was off. But anyway, if you are not a size 36 or a size 42, or you need to adjust the size, when we start the knit along in April, I'm going to show you how to do like a simple stitch calculation, so you can either adjust your gauge or you can adjust your stitch count. I'd probably recommend adjust your stitch count. Just get the gauge that you like for the fabric that you like, and then we'll adjust the stitch count, and then the sweater will fit you. Excuse me. And if you like, even though that sweater pattern doesn't use the gauge shifting, it uses Like it's, you know, it's a rectangle shape. It's like straight all the way down. If you wanted to, you could do it using gauge shifting, so it's got a little bit more room in the bust and is more tailored at the waistline. And I don't think that will, I think it'll just make it better because, you know, as far as I know, we're all women here. I could be wrong. If you're a man in the Number Knitting group, welcome. We have lots of women's sweaters we'll be knitting together. So that's Hampton sweater. I'm excited to knit it again. It's probably 5 years since I knit that first one, so I'm gonna do another one, and I think it's gonna be good. I have some yarn picked out. Not sure if I have enough. What's new? Okay, let's talk about let's see what folks are saying. Can I share, Stephanie wants to know if I could share pictures maybe next week of the finished throw blanket. Yes, I can. And I might even have one on my phone. Let's see. And then I could show you right now. Oh, that might take me a little bit to find though. Oh no. Oh, that's not done. I'll have to get that for you. I have like 150 other pictures kind of like afterward. We're cleaning out our shed this weekend, and so I've got pictures of all kinds of like RV supplies and water filters and air conditioning wires and like all the things that we're trying to sell. And so it's all cluttered up my knitting photos in my phone. So I'll get the picture for you and show it off next week for sure. Rose, the bodice blouse, I'm pretty sure the bodice blouse is not the one that you're testing. Probably not. I'm going to get back to that in just a moment. Bob says, what weight of yarn for the Hampton sweater? Let's double check what Virginia says. And I'm going to be providing all these patterns for you. So you can screenshot them now, but I meant to make a link for download this week and I forgot. So, but I'll have it for you next week. This says weight C, which if we look, let me look, there we go. Here it is. Hold on. Weight C. Oh, and it's size 11 needles, average. So what does she mean by weight C? Let's go and take a look at the yarn chart. I think it's called yarn chart. No. Well, let's open the bookmarks and see where it's at. Whoop. She put together a table of, there it is, yarn. Okay, approximate gauge for yarn. So according to this, a C weight yarn is Afghan weight. So I'm going to say that that's like a worsted weight. And according to this chart, which is just a her generalization, you would get on size 11 needles using Afghan weight yarn, you would get 3 stitches to the inch. And I find that my gauge, according to these 4 yarn weights, is pretty similar to Virginia's. And you know, nowadays we've got like, I think in the standard, what is it? It's not Crafting America. What's that yarn? It escapes me right now. Craft Guild of America, Craft Alliance. I don't remember. But they put together the 8 different Craft Yarn Council. Maybe that's it. There's 8 different weights from like 0, which is cobweb, and then 1 is lace, like all the way up to like 8, which is super bulky. And there's even, I'm sure, you know, like at Walmart, you could get like thicker yarn than that. So it's like the, you know, the size of a rope, which is ridiculous. But anyway, so in the modern standards, there's like 8 different weights. Virginia's, you know, designation had 4, and she rated this as like a 3, which is Afghan weight. So I'm going to say that's worsted weight. Yeah. Oh, it goes 0 through 7. Okay. Oh, that makes sense, because that's 8, 0 through 7, because 0 counts as the first one, so that's 8. Yeah, I get it. So the bodice blouse. Okay, let's talk about the bodice blouse. This is the pattern this week. It is ridiculous. There we go. Okay. Bodice blouse with cape scarf. Oh, Virginia. Let me show you the picture first before I show you the pattern, because if you haven't seen the chart yet, it'll freak you out. Okay, so here's this bodice blouse. Well, there's two things going on here. There's first this one, and this is just the blouse part, and it's like got this square chest thing, which has got kind of like this, 1600s, 1700s, like low cut court dress kind of appeal. It's cute. Another thing I think that works well for this particular model, because she is a tiny little person. I think she's like a 32, and if you look at like medieval court dress, I'm not sure, probably like 1600s era, 1700s era court dress, maybe even into the 1800s. The outfits that the women wore, the whole idea of like uplifted bust was like not a thing. And so they wore the corsets, and then the corset covers, and then like the bodices over that, and so everything was like smashed, and the whole aesthetic was like to compress as much as possible. And so it didn't really show any bust line. It was flat. And this I feel like this sweater thing, it kind of has that same aesthetic. Like it could very much look very, very different on someone that's busty. If you're, a smaller chested person, it's probably going to look like that. But on somebody that's like triple D or F or, any of the other letters, this blouse is going to look a lot different. And so I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. Yeah, because that doesn't show any cleavage, but if you're like an F cup, it probably will. So that'll be entertaining. Okay, so the way this blouse is, it's got these, it starts with some divided squares in the front, and then it's got some smaller like divided squares down in the lower front here, and then it's got these like blousey sleeve things, and with a tight cuff. And so the body of the sweater is like made on, I think, like 6 or 7. These sleeves are made on like 13, and it's all the same yarn. It's all the same yarn, but just very different needle sizes. Okay, so then let's look at this other sweater, this other picture of the same sweater. And now she's got this like, and I'm thinking it's for modesty reasons, because I don't know, it probably would offer some warmth, but there's these two, like, she's got some blousey thing over the top, like a scarfy thing, and it's called a cape scarf. And maybe it's like a cape, but it's also like a scarf. I don't know. And it's really hard to see in the picture. I think it's got buttons on it. I don't know. I'm really not sure. And I'm trying to understand, and that's one of the reasons I think this pattern is so interesting, because, all right, let's take a look at this chart. Let me see. Hold on real quick. Let me see if there's any questions. Oh yes, Rose is doing the winged blouse and scarf. Oh, I'm excited to see that. Oh my gosh, Rose, you're hysterical. Read the comments, folks. Love it. All right, so let's go back to this. All right. So, and a lot of her patterns are like 2 paragraphs and a couple sentences, and then it'll even say like who it was knitted by and like where the yarn came from, and maybe even this one is like 4 pages. Oh, when I originally drew the chart for this, I didn't even know there were so many parts to it. It just like, I only drew 1 chart. There's 2 charts for this, which is, it's wild. Okay, so here it's a size small. It's 30. I don't know any adult woman that has a 30-inch chest. 30 or 32. For larger sizes, add 1 stitch to each box. For size 34, 1 box equals 11. A size 36, 1 box equals 12. And again, the box number, here's an example of a box number. Here's a box number. A box equals 8. And so in this chart here, which is for a different sweater, you're 2 boxes wide by 2 boxes tall. So this little unit would be 16 by 16 divided square. Okay, and so for me, I'm a 36, and 1 box equals 12. All right. And I guess if you're like add for larger sizes, so like if you were a 38, I guess your box number would be 13, I'm thinking. And if you're like a 40, your box number would be 14. I think so. I think that's a safe assumption. And for smaller sizes, subtract 1 stitch in case you have a friend or child with a 28-inch chest. I don't know. Okay, so this calls for 2-ply weaving yarn. Mine is only 1 ply, and I'm thinking that maybe there wasn't such a thing as 1 ply when Virginia was knitting. Maybe all lace weight was 2-ply. I don't know. Anyway, fine 2-ply weaving yarn, silver gray, 5 ounces, including scarves. So let me show you what I'm using. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to get more, but whatever, that's how I roll. This is Blue Sky Fibers Wool Stock Light Fingering. It is it says 5 to 7 stitches per inch. Our pattern says 5 stitches to an inch on size 7 needles. Oh, anyway, I'm going to have to check my gauge on this. This is Peruvian Highland? It doesn't say Peruvian. It just says fine Highland wool, and maybe there's more than one Highland. I don't know, because whenever I've seen Highland wool, it's always Peruvian Highland. But then I think of like Scottish Highland cows. Like they have a Highland, and they've got a whole cow breed named after them. So, what Highlands? I don't know. I'm not really sure. But each one of these is I think this is 50 grams. I think these are each 50 grams. So anyway, this is what I'm using. It's not 2-ply. It is 1-ply, but I'm just going to go with it because I thought it was pretty. Now, one thing I think is important is that you got to remember back in the 50s, they didn't have, as far as I know, they didn't have superwash wool yet. I need to check my McCall's magazines, because at some point they started advertising like moth proof or tickle free, I think was a brand name. But I don't know at what point that happened. But I don't think it became very widespread for a while. I mean, now superwash is like, you kind of have to go out of your way to not get superwash, I feel like, especially in some of the fine yarns. Like if you want a sock weight yarn that's not superwash, like that's harder, and that's why I picked this one, because it's not superwash. And the reason I say be careful with superwash, because whatever they do with the superwash, like superwashing, it does something so that the scales won't grip. So you can actually put it in the washing machine. Undelicate, but you can put it in the washer. And so those scales aren't really there anymore. But if you're knitting a fine gauge yarn on big needles, and those scales, they serve an important purpose. Like, they will kind of grip onto each other a bit and just give it a bit more structure. And I think that's really important when you're using a thin yarn on big needles. So for me, I like the non-superwash for this purpose, because I feel like it gives kind of like it gives more body to the fabric. Because I've knit, before I knew better, I've knit superwash on big needles, and I loved it until I washed it, and then it went, whoa, and I was like, oh, no. It like melted. It was disheartening. It got all droopy, and I feel like the non-superwash, it just like, it holds up better. Okay, anyway, rant over. Let's go back to the book. Okay, so we're gonna do fine 2-ply weaving yarn, 5 ounces, including the scarves. Now those scarfy things, I don't even know about those yet. We'll tackle those later. You will need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sizes of needles. And on the number 7 needle, you're supposed to knit to a gauge of 5 stitches to an inch, which I think is about what I have here. I don't know. But what's nice about this is that she tells you what needle you're supposed to use to get gauge, because there's some other patterns in the book where she lists like 6 different needle sizes and then says you should on average get, however many stitches to the inch, but she doesn't tell you like at what portion of the sweater that should happen, or like what needle size, or anyway. So she says use the size 7 needle to get a gauge of 5 stitches to the inch. Now all of these are US sizes, so you'll need to do your own conversions to convert them to millimeters. I've been knitting for decades, and I still have to look it up every time, because I just don't know. Okay, the back here, in case you were scared, as I was, the design is more simple in the hand than it appears charted. The back is 4 divided squares beginning at the waistline on number 7 needles. The rising to the shoulder on 2 number 8 needles. From the shoulder units, the sleeves on number 13 needles are first picked, returned, and cast on. And so she gives you pretty good instructions, kind of reassuring you, which is important, because oh, so I guess you knit the front first, and you knit front, and then the sleeve, and then I don't know where unit 4 is. Oh, it's so confusing because you can't fit all the units on the same chart. Let me back up a little bit. One, two, three. I still don't know where unit 4 is. Anyway, I made the mistake of trying to read this chart right before bed one night when I was trying to go to sleep. I redrew it as I always do. Apparently I forgot to plug my computer in. Hold on one sec. There we go. I redrew the chart. Apparently I just redrew one page of the chart, so I need to finish the chart. But I'll include this in the download, and we can walk through this together, because oh, here it is. All right, so you knew 1, 2, 3, and then you knit the cuff. This is all considered unit 4. And then I don't know. I don't know. Where's 5? Is 5 a gusset? Anyway, you can see why that's confusing. So I will I will, in my mind, I'm going to get that sorted out so that by the time we get to unit 5, by the time we get to unit 5, I'll know where to take us, because yeah, I don't know. It's too confusing for me. You ladies crack me up. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that is the bodice blouse with cape scarf. Let me show you the other part of the chart that I forgot to chart. Oh, one other thing on here. This my new chart still doesn't include this. I need to. This is a handy reference to tell you which, like you're on unit 1, it's a back, and then you use needle size 6. And then unit 2 is also for the back, and you use needle size 7. So she gives you like this little road map here, which I think is going to be really important. And she tells you like what it is. Oh yeah, unit 5 is a gusset. There we go. Maybe that's why I couldn't find it. Maybe she didn't even label it. Oh, there it is. It's small. Anyway, so she's got the road map, which is handy. And then this continues. And so what is kind of weird about this is that the sleeves aren't on here. The sleeves are on here. These like 3 and 6, those are the big poofy sleeves. But they're not displayed on this section, on this second chart. The second chart is the divided, is like the lower half of the sweater, or like the lower third of the sweater, and all of the like the button band and that sort of thing, and the neck border. I guess it goes higher, like lower in front and higher in back. And so the second chart is for the rest of it, not including the sleeves. She also has a note on here how you can leave the center back open, like this gusset is optional. So that doesn't make any sense, but again, I'm not there yet. And so probably in a few weeks, or a month or 6 weeks or whatever, when I get there and I get to the gusset, I'll be like, oh, okay, I got it now, Virginia. I get it. But like, I wonder how many, like, did she just come up with this on the fly? And then, like, how does she know that the back was like optional and it could be open? Like, did she have to make more than one of these to get the details figured out? Like, I don't know. I'm very curious. Okay, so chart number 1 is like from here up, and it's got the sleeves. All right, and then we're going to go to the second part of the chart, which is from here down, and it's got the border and the button bands. Roger that. And then, and I don't understand this at all, down here, this is like a whole separate garment. That's the cape scarf part of it. And it's not attached to the sweater. It's like this separate accessory thing. And I don't understand it at all. It says they're like, this is all it says about the cape scarf. The cape scarf is made by using the same directions as for the single scarf. Okay, like where? I don't know. I don't know. Waistband, gusset, scarf. The cape scarf is made by using the same directions as for the single scarf. I don't know. I think it's got buttons on it. Well, it's just something we're going to have to look forward to, because it doesn't make any sense right now. And so it's those kinds of things that I've been running into, where like when I used to think, I'll just republish the book, and now I'm like how many more pages of explanation would it take for me to add to that in order for that all to make sense? Like, I don't know. And that's just one pattern. And there's 74 in the book. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, goodness. Okay, so that's Cape Scarf. I'm excited about that, and I'm also kind of nervous about that. Okay, so some comments on the Cape Scarf. The second chart is for the Cape Scarf. The bottom part of the second chart is for the Cape Scarf. Just the little bit at the bottom is for the Cape Scarf. But the first 2/3 of that second chart is for the sweater because it's got all the button bands on it. Like 95% sure. Of course, could be wrong, but pretty sure because it says Cape Scarf right next to it, real small. Is it possible the bodice is sleeveless? Let's look. The bodice blouse. Well, if you look at this little road map, it says you got a back, a sleeve, a cuff, a gusset, and a front. And all of that is one bit, all picked up from another. And if you look here, it talks about, let me get my highlighter. There we go. We got the shoulder, we got the cuffs, and then the sleeve are picked up from, the cuffs are picked up from the sleeve, and then you do a small gusset, and then you knit the right back unit and gusset, and then do the front likewise but in reverse. And hey ladies, if a higher neckline is wanted, the front may be a duplicate of the back. Yep. Middle-aged women, whoop whoop, rejoice. And our friends and family will say thank you. Okay, the blouse now only has to be finished with the borders and be sewn up to the underarm seams, including gussets. Okay, so now we're gonna do the borders, right? So we got the borders are here. The borders for the blouse include the waistband, the front or buttonhole borders, and the border outlining the square neck at back, shoulders, and bust line. With the exception of waistband units, all border units are divided squares of 1 box dimension. That is 10 stitches by 10, except if you're a bigger person, like I'm going to say all of us, because that 10 stitches by 10 is just for somebody with a 32 bust. So mine is going to be 13 by 13. So remember that. The waistband units are in divided squares 20 by 20. Only they're not. Okay, then you're going to do the back border and then the front shoulder. And then and here, she gives instructions on how to knit the buttonholes, because there's other sweaters that have buttons on them, but she doesn't like have any mention of buttonholes or like how to secure, like the copper cardigan. There's clearly buttons in the picture, but she has no mention of buttonholes or like how to secure it. So I don't know. That's once I get to that point and I need to add buttons, maybe I'll ask for advice on how I can do that after the fact. Okay, so then we've got the waistband, the gusset, and here we have scarf. The Cape Scarf is made by using the same directions as for the single scarf. Not helpful. So let's single scarf. Let's look at that. All right, single scarf. Awesome. I thought I saw something about the scarf somewhere. Bodice blouse with cape scarf. I think Bodice blouse with cape scarf. Huh. You know what that kind of reminds me of? Hold on, let me show you something. Yeah, I think we might have just figured this out. I'm not 100% for sure. Okay, I know it doesn't all show in the picture, but this is called Butterfly Scarf, and it's earlier in the book. I don't remember what page, but it's it kind of looks to be in the same shape as that. I mean, the edges here are a little bit more like rounded than in the they're a little bit more rounded than this. But I'm wondering if this is kind of what we're supposed to be making. If a box number is 10, so we knit the center section is one piece, and then you do unit 2, which is a bunch of divided squares, and then you knit unit 3, which is a bunch of divided squares. Let me see. I think I might have found it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so cape, earlier in the book, there's butterfly scarf, and she gives 3 different options. And one of them matches this. It's got these divided squares at the bottom, and then it's got like a single unit thing here, and then it's got more divided squares at the top. Let me show you that real quick, because maybe that will be, and we're on page 221. So it's called Small Butterfly Scarf. Small Butterfly Scarf. Come on. I'm close. I feel myself closing in. It's not that one, because this is just 3 divided squares. Maybe it was just called butterfly. Butterfly wrap. Butterfly stole. Gold butterfly stool. Small butterfly. Okay. So here is what I think maybe we're supposed to be making. So she did 3 different variations on this. There's a yeah, she only had the one picture, but then she provided 3 different alternative charts, and she said that what you should do is you should draw the outline of the chart, and then you can make up your own interior design. And one of these interior designs matches closely the cape scarf. And this one that I just showed you, this one here is the black one, and I think this is the pink one that I just showed you, and this one is the purple one. And so I'm thinking maybe we're just supposed to make a couple of butterflies. I think. What do you guys think? Okay. Page 219 is the blouse. Page 221 is the cape scarf. Page 221. Yeah. Page 221 is the cape scarf. The cape scarf is just at the bottom though, because the cape scarf isn't going to have a gusset or borders. Okay. The box difference is different, so the sleeve part may be single scarf. Under the units it says double wings. Really? Where do you see double wings? Let me see. Where do you see double wings? That's what I thought. I thought I saw something about double wings. See chart X. LXVIIA. So the cape scarf is here, but this is the sweater, the second part of the sweater. Yeah. It looks like version 3 is correct. That's what I'm thinking. Version 3 is correct, and knit it twice. And so I think so. I think just knit it twice. She doesn't say though like how to secure it, like if you're supposed to button them together, because sometimes she has instructions on how you're supposed to wear it. Oh, hold on now. Here we go. This is important. On needles used for sleeve, so 13s, knit double wing unit, casting on 40 plus 40 stitches and casting on second row of the 10th ridge. Using smallest needles, number 6, pick a divided square border from the cast off edge. Use largest needles, number 13, to pick a divided square border from the cast on edge. Okay, so we're going to do on size 13s, you're going to knit the center portion. And then on number 6s, you're going to knit a divided square border that goes up. And then on number 13s, you're going to knit a divided square border that goes down. And so I guess the effect that that's going to have is like having it kind of tighten up toward the shoulders and like kind of looser around the arms, which would give that effect. Okay, and then you make 2. And I guess you button them? I don't know. Yeah. So I think we figured it out. But I think we figured it out. It will undoubtedly make more sense when we're doing it. And I'm really glad that y'all are here with me to help me with this, because we need more than one set of eyes on this book, because I just can't figure it out on my own. And so having this collective like brain powers, it's really important. I gotta think that maybe that's another reason that no one else has ever taken on the task of trying to republish this book, because it's just so hard. Anyway, so that's bodice fluff with cape scarf. And so now I'm happy to know you all taught me about how to like how we're gonna knit the scarf. So I'm feeling like less intimidated about that. But then also I learned that you can knit it, like you can make the front and the back match for middle-aged, which is all of us, I'm guessing, for middle-aged ladies who are modest. Or who should be modest. Yes, so I'm gonna knit the higher version because I remember when I was in my 20s and I had this, that was when like the camisoles were like the low cut camisoles with the spaghetti strap things were really popular. And they were, stretchy. And so I would wear those and, they came down to here and then I just wear like a little button up thing over the top of it. And the shirt that I had on one day just didn't button up or zip up high enough or something. Like my boss, she was like 10 or 15 years older than me and she was a mom. And she went up to me one day and she went like this. she zipped it up because apparently I was showing cleavage and it wasn't appropriate at work. Anyway, that won't happen anymore. Okay, so you got your yarn. Probably not. You don't have your yarn yet for the Hampton, but you got to pick out your yarn for the Hampton sweater. I don't know how much. I should bring a scale up with me next time so I can weigh these things. She says 10 ounces, but take that with a grain of salt. She also says worsted weight. And my first one, this one wasn't worsted weight, but I'm changing it up this time because, I want to. So let me show you what I'm going to be making. No, I already made it. This is yarn that I made. It's hand spun. So every year, my friend Kenzie, she has 2-pad alpacas, and she doesn't knit or spin or anything. So every year, right after shearing time, she drops off like 5 or 6 pounds of alpaca fiber on my front porch, and I send it off to get processed. And I've been spinning more of it lately. I have lots of roving, pounds and pounds of roving, and if you want to buy any roving, I've got like 10 pounds in my closet. And so this is I think it's like a 50-50 alpaca cormo blend. I got the cormo as a Christmas gift, and the alpaca is like half of it. Well, there's one Suri alpaca and one Huacaya alpaca, and she just like blends it all together. And so it's the fluffy alpaca and the silky alpaca, and then it's cormo, and the cormo was dyed separate and then blended it all together, and it's just scrumptious. So anyway, this is like a light fingering, almost lace weight. I'm not sure. Can you see that? Can you see that? It's light. It's thin. I wish I could spin thicker, but I can only spin one weight of this fiber. Like some people that are really good spinners, they can choose like if you want to make a fingering or worsted or like whatever. And I think the only way I could make a worsted is to make like 6-ply, and I don't even have that many bobbins. So I only have 1 weight of yarn that I know how to make, and it's super fine. And so that's what I'm going to be using. I'm just going to increase my adjust my gauge and increase my stitch count. So instead of like 12 by 12 or whatever, it's probably going to be 20 by 20. But I just think this is pretty yarn, and I want to use it to make the Hampton shirt. So I'm going to do it. I already made one according to the pattern, so I'm just going to do my own thing now and use this for another Hampton shirt. Thank you. I like the color too. It's I also have, this is like a teal. She also sent me a bunch that's green, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm sure it's going to be lovely. I don't usually do things with green, like unless it's greenish blue, but like a pure green, I don't really do things with green very often. Yeah, so we'll see. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be making. Hey, we haven't talked about prizes for the knit along. I don't even know how to do prizes. I don't know how many people have finished their blankets, but we'll do some prizes. And I don't know if it should be like a one of these things or like skein of hand spun, or I don't know. What do you think would be a good prize? I suppose maybe I should come up with that since it's my podcast, but do you want a mug? Like, what should we do? Throw in some ideas if you have any. Anyway, I did want to let you all know that since I've been doing this, I may have mentioned when I first started that I work by myself for myself, and so I don't talk to people very often, like longer than, what would you like for dinner? But like, I don't talk much, and so my voice is very weak. And good news, I can go through like a whole hour on a podcast now and not have a hoarse voice. Of course, it's been an hour and a half here that I've been up here yabbering at y'all, and so now my voice is a little bit tired. But at the 1 hour mark, I was good, and so that's exciting that my vocal cords are getting stronger. So thanks for that. Oh, good. You haven't started the blanket yet. That's okay. That's okay. Plenty of time. All right. Maybe. Oh, the sizing. Mishi B wants to talk about. Oh, and you put your username in there. Mishi B, Cats and Betas, same person. Thank you for that. I want to make the Hampton for my best friend. She's 4'11" and 84 pounds. Yikes. She is small. One of my best friends is 4'10". She makes me feel like a giant, and I love her for that. She's the only person besides children that have ever made me feel tall. What I would ask her, like, do a chest measurement. Well, I mean, she could give it to you, but like, find out what her rib cage is. I mean, she might be like a size 30, and then the one, oh no, that's the bodice blouse. Yeah, so just do a chest measurement, find out like what her, circumference is, and maybe add in an extra inch if she wants a little bit of ease. Maybe 2 inches, like the thicker the yarn is, the more ease there should be. But for me, I kind of like it when things are a little tighter around the bust, because I have a smaller waistline, sort of like an hourglass shape, and so when things are a little tighter here, it just helps to accentuate that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm not a fan of a lot of modern sweaters, is because they're square shaped and they just are not flattering. And so I like the tighter top. But find out your friend, how she likes her clothes. Does she like a heavy fabric, or like a tighter fit up here, or like super baggy, or what? But find her chest measurement and then determine her style, and we can do the math from there. It's going to be pretty straightforward, because it's a divided, what is it? Let me find the pattern again. Hampton shirt. There we go. So basically, all you'd have to do is, let's say she's got a 30-inch chest, which seems really small, but for conversation's sake, and she wanted it to fit exactly 30 inches. That means that each one of these, like the front and the back, would each need to be 15 inches around. And so if you do 15 inches divided by 4, I used to, in probably about the 4th grade, I used to be able to do math like that, but now that I'm 45, I don't know how to do math like that anymore. So let's see, 15 divided by 4. That means each one of these squares would need to be 3.75 inches. So you would determine your gauge. I think the original gauge in the pattern is 3 stitches to an inch, and each one of those needs to be 3.75 inches. And so you would do these on either 11 by 11 or 12 by 12, and yeah. And so each, which is incidentally what she has here. This says 1 box equals 4. So if you did these on 12 by 12, 1 box equals 4. Yeah. I will probably want to double check that math. Double check that math because I'm a little bit tired right now. And that just it's a little suspicious to me because the numbers that I just came up with also match what Virginia has for a 42-inch chest. And I was calculating for a 30-inch chest. So I'm going to come back to that one in fresh because I'm not at the moment. 3 point. Anyway, we can look into that. But it's a simple calculation. When the charts, when the diagonals and the squares are actually diagonal, it's easy because you just have to calculate just straight across. It's simple. Where it gets tricky is on the patterns like the diamond design sweater, which is I got a couple of them here. When the diagonals in the divided squares are on, they're straight up and down. And so the whole pattern, if you look in the book, the whole pattern is charted on the bias. And that's where it gets complicated. I made a stitch calculator to calculate for this. Like you could knit it in whatever size you want. But if your sweater is just like the Hampton sweater and it's not on the bias, it's easy peasy. I agree in calculating a negative experience based on the winged blouse because the sweaters, the garter stitch and the crossway stretch, they're uber stretchy, and they will, not that they will stretch out of shape, they won't, but they are very forgiving and they will expand to fit a wide variety of sizes, and they will hug your curves, and they're amazing. Alrighty, ladies, so do you have your marching orders? So this week I'm going to be, let me make a to-do list. Oh, there's my pens. All right, so I'm going to work on my copper cardigan. I need to wind my yarn for the bodice blouse. I haven't washed this yet, so I should probably wash that and get that wound up to calculate the stitch gauge. So I'm going to wind my yarn, and I also need to put up links to all the books I mentioned. I have another book that I wanted to share with you, but I got sidetracked this week. It's a book, I'll just touch on it real quick, and I'll go into a lot more detail about it next week. It's a new book that's coming out, Tyrolean Sweaters, and it has an amazing discussion on vintage yarn and vintage yarn construction and comparable yarns of today. So we're going to talk about that next week, but I think you can download a Kindle sample from the Amazon store. So I'm going to add that to my list today, even though we didn't really talk about it much, but it's mind-blowing, and I think that would help us a lot in understanding how to choose yarns today based on the descriptions that Virginia gave us, because some of the times the yarns that I'm choosing, I try to match what she has, and it's not even close. And so that book, Tyrolean Sweaters, I think is going to help us to get that sorted out, mentally in our understanding. All right. So I think that's it for tonight, ladies. This has been super fun, and oh my gosh, it's 7:38. My voice feels it. Next week, pretty sure same time, same place. Pretty sure. I have to go on a trip next weekend, so, and I'm pretty sure we'll be back in time for Sunday night though. Anyway. Post in the Ravelry group, and I look forward to seeing your projects and knitting along together, and thank you for helping me get all this sorted out in my brain. Yeah. All right, did you have any more questions before we go? Thanks for coming. It means a lot to me. Our group is small but powerful. All right, girls, I'm gonna call it a night, and I I will see you next time. Thanks for coming. And thanks again to our teacher, Virginia. Well, this isn't Virginia. This is Virginia. Thanks, Virginia, for charting the path for us. And we'll see you next week. Bye. Of course, now I don't know which button to press. How about that one? Yay! Bye, everybody.